I've been painting portraits for probably about 40 years now. You know, I've worked with governments before, but doing this one on the Queen is a whole different level. Well, first of all, it's commissioned. It's an official portrait that is portraying the Queen at the time of the 60th Jubilee, so 60 years on the throne, which is a real achievement. So I carved her image from photographs I had and from other source photographs to get the basic forms of her face to this stage here. So it's a matter of you know, starting off with rough carving, and then you refine it more and more, and then you sand it and polish it and just keep getting it down until you've got what you think is a reasonably close replication of the forms of her face. And from that I made a mold. This is a vinyl mold of this sculpture. And so into this mold I cast, in the beginning, plaster, and made plaster replicas like this. And then I eventually made, it's called Alumilite, a kind of plastic mold. And from this stage I went and I refined it a bit more and then painted it and made her a little plastic tiara and some, a necklace here. So that this could give me a good replica of what she would look like in any lighting situation. So the lighting situation I eventually chose for the painting, I was able to set this up and photograph this in such a way that I could work from those pictures to form what became my conception of what she would look like in that particular lighting situation. So again, this is another part of the conceptualization of the space and the light and the atmosphere. But that's another use of the model, is that you can experiment with objects, with the choice of objects, with placement of objects, with lighting of objects, scale of them, a lot of different, you know, possibilities. This is Elizabeth's great-great-grandmother. I would say probably the biggest challenge for me is, as I mentioned, the lack of access to the Queen as a sitter. Because with most other portraits, even high profile portraits I've done, access to the sitter is not a big problem. You can go back numerous times and you can check on different things. You can do sketches and take more photographs and take more measurements of things. It's a lot easier. But in this case, because of her position, and because it's also, you know, she lives in England, I live in Canada. You know, painters, they work their whole career to try and get an opportunity like this. You know, this is my opportunity to place myself in the same world as all of these great portrait painters of the past who've done royal commissions. I want to both fit into that tradition and kind of add to it as well, bring it into the 21st century. It has to depict Her Majesty at the time of the Diamond Jubilee. I think it should, there are some timeless elements that should be conveyed in the painting about monarchy, about leadership, and on a personal side, about dedication and devotion to the position, and on an even more personal side, something about the kind of her personality itself. So again, it sounds like a contradictory thing to present a person that is a monarch and a world leader and a world, a celebrity, really, and probably the best known person on the whole planet. That's the public side. On the other side, you want to predict a sense of the personality and the real person behind that position. I showed her pretty much everything I had to that point, including the sketches, photographs of the model, the sculpture that we were looking at earlier. There were a few elements that were proposed from the beginning. Like I said, there's a painting by Sir George Hayter of Queen Victoria that is sitting in Rideau Hall that is in the painting, the Canadian flag, and the British North America Act. So those three elements were kind of given at the beginning of the process. And you can read here, and you can go up close and read an act for the Union of Canada, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick, and the government thereof, and for the purposes connected herewith. March 1867. So you can read that. You can't read the beginning of the small type, but I thought that was good enough. This is probably the most nerve-wracking part of the whole painting, starting this process. But I'm just going to do it the way I do I have a kind of systematic way of doing faces. Storm coming just as I start her face. Actually, I find that I'm still, I'm surprised how much I keep on learning. And what's nice, I find at this stage of my career, is that I find almost like my hand getting ahead of my brain, it was always the other way around. I was always very conscious of what I was doing, what I was trying to do, and then my hand would follow it. But now I find that my hand my unconscious mind and my hand are kind of leading the conscious mind, which is a funny kind of reversal after all this time. But it's a nice feeling because I've gotten to the point where you'll see my hand moving around, like doing things like this, and it's almost like I'm just watching it happen. So it's a nice feeling, but it takes a long time to get there, but it's nice to see it happening. Okay. And I'll start working my way into the lighter tones. These shadow colors I've used for like the fill-in highlights in the shadow. They're very warm and kind of orangey because the incandescent light in the room is very, very warm. It's warmer than sunlight. So the sunlight areas now, I'm changing flesh tones. They're a little bit cooler. Not much, but just a little bit. So now I start working my way up from the lit area, the darker side of the lighted area up to the highlights. See, for now, this is as far as I want to go in the light tones of the shadow flesh. And that looks surprisingly dark, but it won't be. There's a strange little area when we come to, chiaroscuro effects like this, with dramatic lighting, side lighting on the face. This transitional area I'm painting in now, it's one curious thing about it is that the color is very warm and very rich. And I used to wonder why that was. And then when I studied it more closely, what I discovered was that because flesh is transparent, what happens is that a strong side light, when it hits the flesh, see here on the nose or even on the forehead, it's actually going through the flesh, the transparency of the flesh, and you're getting a translucent effect because you're seeing into the flesh in a way. It's making the flesh glow. So it's flesh is actually quite surprisingly transparent. You can actually see the different layers in a way. And I think I discovered, through that I discovered why you get this this small area of very rich coloration. It's a bit like if you've ever taken a flashlight and put it under your hand and it all turns orange. You can see the light coming through the blood-filled flesh. It's a bit like that. To be honest, this is the most precious thing in this project that I've done to this point, because I finally got the face the way I wanted it. And the Queen liked this a lot too, so I showed it to her, and she liked that very much. So it was nice that we were on board with what we were after as far as both likeness and expression and mood. So that this to me is very precious. I was told that little purse that she carries around all the time, people always wonder what's in it. There's lipstick in it. Yeah. And she's able to put her lipstick on without a mirror. I'm using the same red for the lips as is in the Canadian flag. So it's Canadian lipstick. There are people out there that are obsessed with royalty, and they spend their whole lives just, watching them and analyzing what they do. But for someone in the spotlight for her whole life, she's handled herself with incredible grace and dignity. And what I mean by that is that she's created a sense of stability and tradition and tranquility as the center, around this kind of storm about monarchy. And I think that's the best she could have done. Not an easy job, though. This is easier. This is hard, but this is easier than being the Queen, I'm sure. You know, after meeting her and having worked with her to this stage, I feel like I have a little bit of a sense of her personality. And I felt like there was a connection in that, like, I've devoted my life to my vocation, my art form. And, you know, most of my waking hours are dedicated to that. And I got the sense from her that her whole life has been dedicated to this position as Queen, something she was born into, like it wasn't a choice of hers.
With an inventory of more than 6,000 pieces, the Crown Collection tells the story of 2 centuries of Canadian history and culture. And today we're adding an incredible piece to it.
I'm hoping that this becomes a good ad or advertisement for the art of painting, especially the art of portraiture, painting portraiture, because it's really fallen on hard times through the 20th century, even into the 21st century, where most portraits we see are photographically done. People take portraits all the time. Everyone's got an iPhone with a camera on it. They're clicking photographs, mainly photographs of faces. So the world of portraiture has been kind of consumed by very quick digital media. So for someone to commission a painting of the monarch in this day and age is surprising in itself. But I thought, having this opportunity, I've got to do the best possible job to show people that the art of painting, and the art specifically of painting portraiture, is not dead. You can do something worthwhile with paint on canvas and human imagery that can't be done with a photograph or a film or digital imagery. So that was, this is I'm trying to save what I guess in a lot of people's eyes is a dying art, but I still think there's life in it.